What's going on, people? What's going on? It's De La Spurs Live coming to you for another edition of De La Spurs. It is April 27th, Monday, the beginning of the week. I hope you guys are starting off your week strong. I hope everything is going well for you. I hope the weekend was good as well. If you're a Tottenham fan, I know you had a good weekend. I know you did. We're going to get into everything with the win away from home. Also going to be talking about some of the implications of that win. Doesn't really look like that the points table really didn't show any change or any differences. So we'll be discussing what we actually see that can be the difference with what happened on Saturday versus the reality that we face. Before we do that, though, everybody take a moment, give yourself a round of applause for being here tonight. Stream is coming extremely late. Get it? Stream extremely late. Yes. I had some issues with getting the stream on time, as well as you can see from my post, my job has been in its busy season. De La Spurs will be hitting the road very soon. So we will have to change up the streaming schedule just a tad bit to make those accommodations. But trust me, I will try to go live as much as I can, try to adhere to the Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule as close to as possible. But really, with all the work that's coming in, some changes will have to be made to the streaming schedule. So just hold on to your horses, right? I will give you those updates, but please, I am glad you are here now. I'm glad you are with me tonight. Without further ado, let me go ahead and get my big head on the screen. How are we doing tonight, folks? It's De La Spurs Live coming to you again. Welcome to the show. Listen, we're not going to be going too long tonight. Like I said, been busy at work. Don't want to take too much of your nights. So feel free while you have the moment here to like and subscribe to the YouTube, right? Like the live stream, subscribe to the YouTube channel at De La Spurs. You can leave a comment in the live chat or in the playback chat whenever you get a chance. Also, feel free to share this content with any friends, family members you know that watch Tottenham, like soccer content in general on YouTube. You know, there's so many basketball pages, football pages that cover the sports. So if you have any soccer fans in the household or know any friends that like the soccer content, like the English Premier League, or are a Tottenham fan, go ahead and shoot them the link to subscribe to the YouTube, or you can just send them the link for the live stream video as well. But feel free to share the content with your friends and family member. The goal is 10 subscribers. We're trying to get 10 more subscribers onto the train. So we're already at 8. So we're pretty close. Just need 2 more people to hit that 10 mark. So I would appreciate it, folks, if you would go ahead, share the content, or if you're watching live or on the playback, feel free to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Well, I think without further ado, let's just go ahead and talk about it. Finally, a win on the board for Tottenham Hotspur. I'm so excited. I'm so excited that we finally can talk about a win. That's the most important. But I am excited that we did get this win. This was something that was definitely needed. Look, as far as a matter of the performance, when you're actually watching the game, I did watch the game on Saturday. Not very appealing to the eye, right? Not very exciting. Not that good of football being played by either side, either team. And to be completely honest, if we would have finished that game 0-0 or 1-1 on a draw, I don't think I can necessarily be upset because the performance didn't necessarily warrant a win, but it's about getting the job done, getting the 3 points across the line, and that's what we did. So we're going to celebrate, right? No reason to sit here and try to say, oh, the performances need to be better, especially at this part of the season with the injuries we have. I don't think the performances are going to be part of the priority. We are just looking to get as many points as we can. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into the game. I already got, let's see here. Actually, no, let me get this pulled up. Here we go. So I do have this pulled up here just so that we can see. Let me get this to full screen. There we go. There we go. So right now we are going to go ahead and start with the starting lineups on the game. Now, as far as the starting lineups, can't really take a whole lot from it. We don't have a lot of players available, and after this game, after the 90 minutes, we definitely aren't going to have the same amount of players available. But that was one of the criticisms I think I had for Deserby, is that of the pick of the litter that he had, was he picking the right players in the right position? Was he putting them in the best place to succeed? And I felt in the previous games, I think it was, I want to say for that Brentford game and maybe even the Brighton game, I didn't think it was the best lineup. But you can see here from the starting lineups, we have back in goal Kinski, who has been immense. One of the changes I think a lot of fans have been calling for, I know I was calling for a change at one point. I believe Vicario was hurt. That's why he originally got the start. But now that Kinski has got a couple of games and goals, he made a great save, especially towards the end of the match on that free kick. I think it was João Gomez who had that free kick. But he saved that free kick, saved the game, saved us to 3 points. So Kinski being a good presence in goal for us. In the back line, we had Pedro Porro, Kevin Danzo, Mickey Van de Ven, and Jed Spence. Kevin Danzo obviously coming back from that the horrid mistake that led to the 2-2 draw at home against Brighton's comeback. Has a better performance, gets the win, right? So comes back from a draw to get the win. Can't be mad about that. Can't be mad about that at all. In the midfield, we had Rodrigo Bentancur and Basuma, who Basuma I didn't really think had necessarily the best of games. I think he looked a little out of place there. You could say the same for Bentancur. I think Bentancur is a little bit – he's more of a tidy player, I think, on the ball. When you talk about the so-called sixes that we have on the team with Basuma, Bentancur, and Paulinho, I think he's definitely more of the tidier players on the ball, tidier passes, tidier dribbling. But I think both players didn't necessarily stand out in the game, but got the job done in the midfield. Again, I would go for a Paulinho starting. As we'll talk about in the substitution section, he obviously had a great presence, a great factor on the game, and this isn't his first time doing that. It's not his first time coming in and having an impact on the game from the bench. So I think it's he warrants a start. I think he needs to start. Looking at the attacking midfield, we had Xavi Simons out on the left, who we're going to talk about coming off with that injury. Conor Gallagher in the middle and Kolo Muani out on the right. And then, of course, you had Dominic Solanke up top, who I didn't necessarily think had that good of a game, didn't really make his presence felt. But again, another injury to add on to the list. So it is what it is. You're going to be talking about all that. Now, let's first get into the first half versus the second half. Now, first half, very slow game. Technically, both halves, you could say, very slow game. As you can see, kind of to the left, looking at the momentum chart, Wolves didn't necessarily have a lot of attacking momentum. We were showing the most, the most attacking prowess. But when you're talking about a team that really doesn't have any goal scorers, doesn't really have a lot of creative players out there on the field, right? What does that attacking prowess mean? What does that look like? And when you're looking at a chart like this, again, like I said, both teams didn't have good performances. So you can only imagine what Wolves were playing like in the second half, if that's what the momentum chart looked like. Looking at the chances in the first half, you can see we dominated the ball. You can see there, this is actually just going, this shows the goal, but you can see the shots that we had on the day. As you can see, missed shot, well, that's a block shot. Missed shot. Missed shot. See, this is our only shot on goal that was saved. We only had one big chance in the first half. Dominating possession, though, 69%. But look at the expected goals, right? Even with dominating the possession at 69%, we only had 0.12 expected goals compared to Wolves' 0.13. So, again, both teams very poor. We had one big chance in that first half, 5 saves that were made. Yeah, it's as you can see here, again, these are showing the shots throughout the game. It's not just showing from the first half. But as you can see, they only really had 2 shots versus our really 1 shot. And technically, we had 2 shots on goal, counting the goal. Looking at the corner opportunities, 3 corners. Not a lot of fouls, a lot of more passes on our end. That's expected when we're dominating possession. But you see there we were going down the wings, or I'm sorry, this is for Wolves. We were attacking down the wings, especially on that right side with Kolomawani. We were going down on that side. Not really anything from the middle, but the right and left were the busiest, especially that right lane where Kolomawani was. Again, you can see from the attack, not a lot of chances created by either teams. Not a lot of shots on goal. Just looking at the duels as well, about 50-50 worth of duels. You can say it was a bit of a midfield battle, right? I don't think a lot of teams got chances on goal, but when it comes to getting possession, having that possession, winning the ball back, as you can see, we had better duels. But you can see in that midfield where I think they won is that the midfield and even the attackers, their attackers were definitely more willing to take on the man, definitely more willing to beat the man. And that just comes with, when they didn't have a lot of possession. When they did, I'm sure they weren't necessarily keen to pass it. They were keen to carry the ball. But players like João Gomez, for me, was one of the standout players for Wolves. I mean, when I see him get on the ball, we have 2 or 3 players trying to press to get the ball back. He was turning, pivoting, creating space for himself, giving the ball up when he needed to. He probably did have a couple of turnovers in that game, but I thought he was an immense presence in that midfield. He usually is for Wolves. And you're talking about a player who is confirmed to be going down with Wolverhampton. But if I'm Tottenham, and if there's any way that our season can be saved, I think a player to look at is João Gomez. I think he has that bit in him that I think we're missing in the midfield, and that's the guy that can have the ball on his feet, that can be pressured, but has that creativity, has that spark, has that innovation to get away from players, create some space for himself, find the passing lanes, or just draw a foul. Right, but I thought he was immense in that game. He was one of the standout players for me at Wolves, and as you can see here to the left, he was one of the highest rated players in that performance for Wolves. So yeah, for me, he was one of the standouts. Again, I think in that midfield battle, I think he got the better of some of our midfielders, and. Again, if there's something that we could try to do, negotiate with Wolves, I'm sure if he was given the decision between playing with Wolves, right, who are in the championship or being relegated to the championship versus staying in the Premier League with Tottenham. And yes, he may not necessarily be the number 1 pick in that midfield, but I think he would rather take his chances as far as what he can accomplish in the Premier League. So if we can save our season, I think that's someone that we can look at. I think he'll be cheap, and I think he'll raise the standards of the midfield immediately. Looking at the second half, though, as you can see, we had better opportunities on goal. We obviously got the goal, the game-winning goal that we needed. And I think it wasn't extra time, was it? Let me see here. No, it wasn't extra time. It was in the 80th minute, close to the end of the game. João Palhinha, I think it was off a corner kick, ball bouncing around in the box. I think a shot deflected his way. He taps it in, put the Tottenham Hotspur up. As you can see, both teams had one big chance in that game. I remember there was a free kick, I believe, by João Gomez towards the end of the game that Kinski had to make a save. Yes, here it is. In the 80th minute, it was saved, right-footed free kick. So other than that, I don't really think they had that big of chances. I know Kinski made another great save as well in the second half. But as you can see, Wolves came out a little bit stronger in the second half. They got a little bit more of the momentum. I think you can see Spurs were kind of stuttering a little bit to try to get a grasp on the game. And that's why I said, if this was a 0-0 or a 1-1 draw, I wouldn't be surprised. I think in the first half we had more of the ball. We should have put away any chances that we created, or we should have created more chances in the first half. Same thing could be said about Wolverhampton in the second half. I think, as far as the possession, they had more possession of the ball, even though it was more even than it was in the first half. It wasn't as lopsided, but they had more of the attacking momentum. We're going to look here at where they were attacking. Again, Wolves were attacking from the wide areas. I definitely remember some moments of their wingers standing up, some of our right backs. I think Pedro Porro would have been out on that side. So I definitely remember some defenders getting stood up in those chances, getting blown by. Again, you see here in the attack, we had the big scoring chance. They had the chance missed, I believe, on that free kick. And you look here in that duel in the midfield and in the defense, you can see we were still dominating the aerial duels, but Wolves were getting the ground duels, as you can probably tell from them having more possession. And then as far as the defending stats, Wolves looked like they had to do more of the tackling. We got more of the interceptions, more of the recoveries, more of the clearances. So, a part of that will be defending a one goal lead in the last 10 minutes. You're clearing the ball. You're not necessarily trying to waste any time, trying to play out from the back, be fancy with it, right? Get the ball out, be safe, make the smart decisions. And that's what we did. And not only did we get that goal, we stood on having that goal. We didn't concede late. Again, João Gomez had that free kick in the 8th minute of extra time towards the end of the game. But Tottenham stood on their own. I have to give them credit when credit's due. We've seen the team falter in those situations, but they didn't that time. So good. Obviously, the big sub that we're going to talk about and we have to give our hat off to, and that is João Gomez coming in, or I'm sorry, João Palhinha coming in. It's the same first name. Coming in and making that immense goal-scoring effort. Again, I believe it was a corner kick. Ball bobbled around a little bit. It was a corner kick. As you can see, Richarlison got the assist. I don't necessarily think he was passing it to João Palhinha. I think he had a shot on goal that just bounced his way. But João Palhinha held onside, put the ball in the back of the net, and we got the goal. Some more substitutions I wanted to talk about. Obviously, the big one being Richarlison coming in for Solanke, who came off with an injury, and Lucas Bergvall coming in. Didn't necessarily have that big of an impact on the game, but had to come in for Xavi Simons, who we'll talk about a little bit later on after the game review, just the extent of his injury. But we do know now it is a torn ACL, probably the worst injury you want to have in this where we don't have any players available. So, it is what it is. We're going to have to be rolling out with he was our most creative player. Probably the most creative player, the best goal threat that we had on the team other than João Palhinha from what we're seeing, right? So he's going to be out for the rest of the season. He'll also be missing the World Cup, so it's going to be unfortunate for him. We had Dragusin come in the last minute just in the garbage time, just to waste some time, coming in for Conor Gallagher. But, as far as the substitutes, I will say as well, Matisse Tell coming on for Kolo Muani. I think Kolo Muani was very poor in that game. I just don't think that he's in it, really. I don't think his head is in it. I don't think his heart is in it. He didn't want to leave Juventus to come to a Tottenham team that's battling relegation, right? Who would, right? No player would want to be in that situation. So right now, I think his head's just turned. I think he's waiting for the end of the season to get back to Juventus, and I'm sure he'll be keen to try to get some talks with them to try to fight for his position to stay on that team or to get another opportunity next season. But Kolo Muani for me was not the standout player. As you can see, he had a 6.6, so you can say he had an average game, even better than Matisse Tell, who came in for him. Matisse Tell, I mean, what are we going to do with this guy? I mean, I get fans saying, oh, well, he comes on, he tries to be this man, he shows the effort, he shows the whatever. It's not good enough. It's just not good enough. This kid, honestly, is just – he split so many people. He split so many fans because you have one side of the fan base that wants to give young players like him a chance. As long as he's showing the effort and he's running his socks off, they feel like that is what warrants him being a part of a top 6 team in the Premier League. But there's another sector of the fans, which I probably lie in, who look at the skill, the tech, and the application of a player, regardless of what level you're at, regardless of what age you're at. And yes, some of those things will continue to grow and improve as you age in the game, as you get more playing time, and as you develop as a player. But for me, Matisse Tell was never good enough to be a part of this team, nor was he good enough to he wasn't good enough in his loan spell, and he didn't warrant a full-time, full paid contract from Tottenham. So I think there's a certain part of the fan base that says, hey, he was never really that good enough to begin with. And yes, he may show bright moments, but look at the context that Tottenham's in, to where we're saying that he's showing some moments, he's showing some spark. One, Tottenham are in a relegation battle. And then two, you're talking about an injury crisis that is just as bad as last year, if not worse. So you're talking about 2 years of 2 injury crises, 2 years of being in relegation fodder, right? 1 year of actually being in a relegation battling to stay out of relegation, which we're still in relegation, right? We're still in 18th place. If the season were to end today, we would be playing in the championship next season. So is this really the player that fans want to sit here and hold their hat on and say, this is the guy, this is the star, this is the future, right? I don't think so. So just some interesting things from the subs. Richarlison came on, he got the assist, but really didn't show or do that much to stand out to me. And that's pretty much it as far as the substitutes. You can see the other substitutes we have available. We had Archie Gray, we had Sousa, who I don't know why we got him. It's so funny, right? It's so funny that we had what's his name, Johan Lange, come on and talking about I don't want to do any panic buys. I don't want to I don't want to buy a player who's not going to be conducive to anything. Here's a quote. I just found it. But like, he came out with this statement. Here's probably a better one, right? He came out with this statement. Actually, no. Where is that? I think it was that previous one, actually. Let me go back to that. Where is it? Yeah. Sorry. So he sits there and says that he doesn't want to make, panic buys. There's a lot of players that will be returning back from injury. We got news that Mohamed Kudus he may be coming back, but, he's very injured, right? He needs surgery right now, so he's hurt. And then second, you have players like Madison, Kulusevski, who's not coming back. Kulusevski has been extended as far as his injury report, and he won't be returning back. Madison, who I think not only is De Zerbi kind of apprehensive, but I'm sure the player himself is probably very nervous to go out there on the pitch and risk, especially in these physical games that we got coming up, to want to be the one to go out there on the field and be the leader, be the guy, because then he'll be target number one, enemy number one. I think it's very interesting, right, that Johan Lange has come out and made these statements. They don't want to make any panic buys. They don't want to buy anyone that doesn't help or lift the team up. But guess who we have here? We have Souza here as a right wing back who's, I think, started a game, didn't necessarily have that good of performances. Come on, didn't necessarily stand out in the performances that he stood. He didn't stand out in the performances. He was a sub. So why did we bring this guy on? Why is he part of the team? If you didn't want to make any panic buys, why does it feel like this is a panic purchase? Because we're not using him, right? If he's supposed to provide depth to the right back position or left back position, he's not doing that because you're still starting Jed Spence and Pedro Porro over these guys. So what is his use? What can he do? So thought that was very interesting looking at the subs bench, but hey, it is what it is. I'm sure that he'll be a body that will need to be utilized now that we have Xavi Simons and Solanke out. I know I'm talking about the front end of things, but I'm probably thinking players like either Pedro Porro or Jed Spence will have to stand up in those positions, or maybe, just maybe, he decides to move Souza up into an attacking position and just give him a run out there. I don't know, but at this point, we need bodies. He's an extra body, so he will have to be and should be utilized. And if he's not good enough, that's more on the recruitment and Johan Lange and why you bring him here more than it is on De Zerbi for picking the guy, especially in these instances. He doesn't necessarily have the pick of the litter. But all in all, moving to that, right? Yes. Saying yes, we got the win. We got the 3 points, right? Interesting enough, after that Brighton game, he comes out saying, I believe that Tottenham team can win 5 games in a row. This is win number one. Win number one on the 5-game run that we need to go on to save ourselves in the Premier League, right? But he's come out, he's got the win, right? Something Thomas Frank and Igor Tudor could not do in their tenures this year in 2026. He's the only Tottenham manager to get us a win in this calendar year. So have to give him some props for that. Really do. Everybody, come on. Come on, give it up for the guy. I know it's a crazy situation that we're in, but we got to give him the praise, give him the props. He made the right decisions, I think, as far as the starting lineup. Again, I probably would have put João Palhinha in. I would definitely want to see João Palhinha play, but it might be, that João Palhinha doesn't have the legs to go. Or doesn't have the legs. Yeah, I'm sorry. That was pretty flagrant. Pretty flagrant.
Bruh.
So, either way, I don't think João Palhinha has the stamina or the, has that much energy to play a full 90 minutes. But I'd rather him start and then we bring on a Bentancur, bring on a Pazuma, than to bring João Palhinha late on in the game and him only having 30, maybe 40 minutes to try to save a game if he gets in that early. I'd rather him be the impact that he's shown himself to be. Who João Palhinha has come in with some not only remarkable goals with that overhead kick or that side kind of scorpionish kick, but he also has been the one to come in and score some goals when we need it. Again, looking at this attack, right? We have no attackers, no goal scorers that are standing up right now. And it seems to be that our defenders and our midfielders are the ones that are standing up in this position and trying to score for the team. I look at players like João Palhinha, right? You could say a Van de Ven on a good day. I look at a Pedro Porro. I look at Xavi Simons at one time. He's injured now, so we can't say that anymore. But these were the players that we were looking at to score. They weren't necessarily the Matisse Tells and the Kolomowanis and Dominic Solanke, who, I've been hearing about. He's supposed to be some prolific scorer, even though he's only had one 20 goal season in the Premier League. I was told that he's supposed to be some prolific scorer in the right system. Play him this way, he'll bag you goals. He has not been that bagsman for Tottenham since we've got him. Granted, there's a lot of context that's around the team that we've been playing and the injuries and everything like that, but I'm not sure if he's necessarily that bagsman. Same thing for Richarlison, right? People say Richarlison scoring goals. He's been scoring useless goals, right? He may get 10 goals, 11, 12 goals on the season or in the Premier League, but what good does that do us if we see that we're in a relegation battle, right? So we haven't seen the goal scorers come from the goal scorers or the people who are supposed to be going out and scoring the goals for the team, right? It's been the defenders. It's been the midfielders. Those have been the guys who have not only been on the attacking and providing for us, but on the defensive end. And maybe you could argue that defensive play hasn't been that great, but I mean, what can you do when you have to play pretty much on both sides of the field, right? And you can probably say that for João Palhinha, who's one of the top tacklers and probably one of the better goal scorers on the team. I'm not saying he's a top goal scorer on the team, but definitely has more than Matisse Tell, has more than Wilson Odebear, has more than Kolo Muani. I'm pretty sure he has more goals than Dominic Solanke, or may have the same amount of goals as Dominic Solanke. So, he has as many goals as our goal scorers or the people in our attack that we have on the team, and he has a crazy amount of tackles and things like that on the defensive end. So he's one of those players that does the job on both sides of the ball. I think that speaks to the quality of player that he is. And I would rather see him start games again and have that impact from the jump than him coming on and only having 20, 30 minutes to make that impact. So, but all in all, again, I have to give credit when due. Deserby deserves credit. He deserves to get this right, or deserves to say that he got this right. But, and I hope that he continues on this path. First of all, making sure that the team can get some wins, right? Get some points on the board. But I hope he can continue on the path of developing the play, how we've been playing. And, I think change some of his decision-making, make some updates, willing to be flexible with the squad moving forward. We have a tough how many games do we have left? That's an interesting question, right? How many games? Let's get this pulled up. Where is it at? So we have, let me get this pulled up here. So we played Sunderland. That was a loss. We played Brighton. That was a draw. We've gotten 3 points from Wolves. So out of the last 9 points available, we've gotten 4, which is not bad. Not bad on De Zerbi at all versus the managers that we've had, Igor Tudor and Thomas Frank, that have gotten, I don't want to say 0 points, but have only gotten single-digit points this calendar year. So he's not doing too far. He's not too far off of the previous managers, and he's only been in for 3 games so far. So next 4 games that we got, again, I think are all physical games, starting off with Aston Villa. That's going to be a dogfight, playing away at Aston Villa, right? I think I can't remember. I think they won over the weekend, but it was a close game. They had to scrap for it to the very end. They got Europe to look forward to. They have a whole bunch of things going on right now. I believe they're still in the Europa League as well. So would this be to Tottenham's advantage, right? Can we take advantage of an Aston Villa team that does have their hands in many cookie jars and maybe take a cookie, maybe take a point from Aston Villa, Villa Park? I would say that's the ideal goal. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I think, in all honesty, I think the best case scenario that we could achieve is a point at Aston Villa, just based off of how we played. I'm not sure if we're good enough to get the 3 points, especially with Xavi Simons and Dominic Solanke out. I think our goal scoring threats have been reduced down to 0 to -2. So it's going to be tough to say that we can go in there and get 3 points, get a win. But I think if we can go in there, get a goal, hold Aston Villa to a goal as well. If we could walk out of there with the point, especially with the injuries we have and everything, I think that is a solid result. We have Leeds next. Again, another very physical game. Leeds likes to play a very, I don't want to say they do press, but it's a very man-on-man, one-on-one sort of defending, right? They don't sit there in position and try to cover passing lanes and things like that. It's very much man-on-man, one-on-one defending. That the one player is going to put the pressure on you, maybe two players if they can get you in a trapped scenario. But it's very much a physical team. They like to play physical. They play knockdown ball where they kick the ball long, kick it high, and expect players like, as you can see there, Calvert-Lewin to try to get ahead or a foot on there to get an opportunity in our final third. So they play knockdown ball. They play a high-intensity pressing, physical defending type of game. So that will be a physical game, especially at home, especially with them being – they're not necessarily in relegation, in the relegation battle, but with West Ham and how they're playing, how they're picking up the points, they may feel that they need to try to get something out of that game against Tottenham. We're in 18th place. I'm sure mentally they're looking at us like food right now. So it's going to be a physical game. It's going to be physical from the jump, and it will definitely separate the men from the boys in that game. Who stands up? That game is at home, by the way. It is at home, so you could say that there's going to be the added pressure of whatever happens with West Ham throughout the week. Are we going to be at an opportunity to leapfrog West Ham? Are we going to be desperate to get the points? Are we going to need the points, right? Are we going to need 3 points just to keep up? Are we going to need or will we just be in a position where 3 points would give us a cushion? Depending on that situation will depend on the type of pressure that's on the game. We have Chelsea away, which I don't have much belief in us getting a whole lot out of that game. Chelsea recently just beat Leeds United to reach the FA Cup final against Manchester City. I don't know when that game is, so I'm not sure how close it is to this Tottenham game. But either way, we don't get a lot from Chelsea away from home. That game is very tough for us. We haven't gotten a point in that game, and I don't think think we've won there in years. So it's definitely going to be a tough game. But this Chelsea team has shown that they have fallen pretty low this season as far as their standards are concerned. I don't think they have a lot of players with a lot of confidence right now, and especially with them just firing their manager. There might be some of the better players, Caicedo, Enzo, Pedro Neto, that may not necessarily have their head in the game, want to listen to an interim manager. But I think what galvanizes that Chelsea team is making it to the final. I think that's definitely galvanized the team to not just want to throw their toys out the toy box for the rest of the season. So I think they're going to try to remain locked in. And again, I think Chelsea is looking at us like food. So I'm sure they're going to want to come into this game, have a good impression, get a win, add 3 points, and move on to look forward to that final. And last but not least, we got Everton. Again, I think will be a physical game. David Moyes and his team, right? They're close to a European position. I believe I haven't checked the table. I will pull up the Opta table to see the percentages and everything like that. But Everton, last manager I want to see in this situation, last game of the season where we're going to have a lot on the line and this Everton team may not, is David Moyes. I don't think he's necessarily going to be saving the team for next season. He's going to want to go all out. He's going to make that game tough, make it physical, make it an absolute slop fest. And if he can roll out with the point or 3 points, he'll see that as a mission successful in that game. So I think that's going to be a tough game. Again, depending on where Everton are, right? I think they are trying to fight to get into that very last European place. I think there's 5 or 6 spots for Europe available. So I think they're like around 8th, 9th, 10th. So depending on how their next 2 to 3 games will go, if they're in around that spot, I can't imagine this team wanting to just sit there and rest rest on their laurels. I think they're going to want to try to shoot for Europe. I think David Moyes, again, is going to set his team up to do what they need to do in that game to be successful, which is try to get a point in that game. So it's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a tough game. David Moyes has been on both sides of the coin, right? He's been battling relegation with West Ham. He's probably been on the other side as well when West Ham aren't in the relegation battle, but they are playing a team towards the end of the season. How do you keep your players locked in? How do you get them to want to go at a team that maybe have given up? If his team or his players may be giving up since it's closer to the end of the season, I think he just kind of knows how to navigate that situation, navigate those waters a little bit better than De Zerbi or the current players that we have on the team. So I think he can make that a tough game for Everton. Let me say that. Listen, man, like I said before, really Leeds is the last game I see us getting points in. I said, points were available in this Wolves game, and we did get the 3 points. So that's able to do that. But, really Leeds is the last game I had on my list as far as getting points. Maybe that Everton game, but that's going to be an absolute pressure cooker of a game. I'm not sure if our players are going to be up for it, especially if we are still sitting in 18th place by the time the last game comes in the season. I'm not sure players like Kolo Muani, you can even make the argument for Conor Gallagher are necessarily going to want to go out there and put it all on the line. I think they're kind of done and they're kind of tired of what they've been dealing with this team, and I think they're just going to be kind of ready to have the season on wrap. So it will depend on that. It's definitely a mentality game that we have coming up, but hey, it is what it is. Last 4 games, away, home. So it's off, on. It's we are at the final stretch of the season, and we need everybody on board, which will lead to my next topic, right? We need everybody on board, but when you don't have everybody on board, boy, does it suck. It sucks. It's just a crappy situation. Let me get this pulled up here. Where is it at? I had the report on Xavi Simons. Here we go. Thank you, Fabrizio, for the update. It goes as follows. Oh, let me make this bigger. Right, it says here Xavi Simons will be out of the World Cup for 2026 with an ACL injury. This is a quote. I believe he posted on his Instagram or something like that. They say life can be cruel, and today feels that way. My season has come to an abrupt end, and I'm just trying to process it. Honestly, I'm heartbroken. None of it makes sense. All I wanted to do was fight for my team. Now the ability to do that has been snatched away from me, along with the World Cup representing my country this summer. Just gone. Take time to find peace with this, but I'll continue to be the best team I can be. I have no doubt that together we'll win this fight. I walk this path now, guided by faith with strength and resilience as belief. Blah, 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 blah. Be patient with me. Come on, you Spurs. And you can see there from that picture, out for the World Cup, right? So not the best situation, again, for us to be in. Xavi Simons, our most attacking player, our most creative player out on the field. Whenever he got the ball at his feet, man, and anybody out there on the field, man, it looks like he was going to be the person to do something with it. And now we're missing him. So we'll be out for the World Cup as well. So that's very unfortunate. And if I'm Xavi Simons, I mean, hey, like, you signed the contract with Tottenham, yes. You are injured, yes. But if he, depending on how things are looking, which I can only say that relegation is all but guaranteed at this point, if I'm him that's saying I went from being a part of the RB Leipzig team, being taken care of, right? I'm not saying RB Leipzig is any Bayern Munich over there in the Bundesliga, but you can't tell me they didn't have high-end, top-of-the-line medical team, training facility, coaches. I mean, the manager position, I'm sure, was just as much as a carousel as it was here at Tottenham. But at the end of the day, RB Leipzig is a team that competes in the Bundesliga. They get pretty good results there. You usually see them pop up in the Champions League or the Europa League, right? So they're a team that was in and amongst it in the Bundesliga with Dortmund and Bayern Munich, right? And for him to go from that team to a team in Tottenham Hotspur that's battling relegation, that's in this position that we're in as far as the injury crisis, and then being there in the background, seeing probably all the things that are different from not having the state of the line, top medical staff, coaches, things of that nature. I'm sure he's looking at this decision like, what the hell was I thinking? Why did I do that? Why did I come to Tottenham? I get it. I wanted to try to take that step forward, but is this really a step forward? Is this really what I needed? So I'm sure he's looking at this situation, not necessarily saying that he's cursing Tottenham, but I mean, if I was a young player in his position, I wouldn't necessarily be giving Tottenham the hard eyes and necessarily saying, come on, you Spurs. We kind of put him in this position to where he will now miss a World Cup. He was already had some injuries on the season before. We still played him. I remember in the game footage or looking back in the game, right, when he was hurt, our medical team comes out there, tells him to stand up, try to walk on it, try to walk it off. They let him enter back into the game only for him to immediately fall over again, more pain, slapping the ground, upset with himself and frustrated that the world, again, has taken away his opportunity to play with Tottenham and represent his team in the World Cup. I think he sort of knew himself as well, just kind of looking on his face and how he's holding his knee, that this injury was serious and that it was going to be a long-term or long road for recovery. But yeah, if I'm someone like him, I'm in my head, I would be losing my head right now. What does this mean for me? Why did I make this decision? My career was not going down this pathway of where I'm now not going to be able to represent the World Cup, and probably, I don't want to say the most watched World Cup, but you're in a country where you're probably in the most commercialized, if that's a word, commercialized World Cup. So you know that there's going to be plenty of money-making opportunities, right? You're coming into a market where in America, you don't have a lot of people who watch soccer. So but one thing that we do respect here in America is swagger, right? We are very much, there is a certain part of American culture that respects the swagger of people. So I know a lot of players internationally are going to be coming over here and getting their shit off as far as how they're going to be dressing, right? I think this is the first time you're ever going to see probably media coverage of players at the World Cup going to nightclubs, hanging out with stars and celebrities outside of the team, right? This is the World Cup as far as any, especially a player of his age, which I know there's probably things in American culture that he sees on social media he wanted to partake in, right? Being able to play in the big cities like New York, LA, Miami, things of that nature, right? This is a World Cup that I'm sure a lot of players of his age, his generation wanted to participate in, just besides of representing their country, just besides the point of how much of an opportunity they actually have to win the World Cup. Because I think that Dutch team is very good. They do have some decent names on the team, and they're usually very structured, have a good manager as well. So I'm sure they're looking at themselves as one of the prospects, to make it into the knockout rounds. And then it's kind of a toss-up of what they can do there. But yeah, man, I think he was very excited to come to this. I think players of his age are excited for this World Cup and being able to participate in this. And for his opportunity to be taken away like this, I feel for the young man. I really do. I feel for him. It is a cruel world, this football/soccer world can be. And, my hopes and my thoughts are with him. I know from one report that I did see on social media that is looking like he'll probably be out until 2027. So until the next calendar year. ACL injuries do have a long-term road to recovery, right? And in this instance, you want to talk about context, right? When you, first of all, you're talking about here at Tottenham. So I think the medical staff, anybody who's giving you advice here, I would go ahead and get a second opinion from the international medical staff if he's able to do that. But the second thing you can say for the context as well is that with ACLs and playing in football, right, you're doing a lot of running. There's a lot of impact on the legs, not only from just tackles, but simply of running, the actual impact on your body of your feet hitting and touching and smashing against the ground as you're sprinting or as you're jogging around, right? So you just get a lot more use in that muscle. You're running around constantly for 90 minutes, right? It's not necessarily like basketball where you can get that substitution, sit on the bench for maybe 2 or 3 minutes, give yourself a break, and then go back out there. It's not like football where you're constantly stopping, going, right? It's always running. So the sport in and of itself is unforgiving to the ACL. Put on top of that, you're at Tottenham, which we don't have a good history with ACL injuries, don't have a good history with the medical staff assessing for these injuries correctly. We don't have a good history of players coming back and being successful after those injuries, right? I don't think there's really any player that you can say, especially in the last 2, 3, 4 years at Tottenham, who's come back from an ACL injury and has gotten back to the levels they were before. It's always been after they're injured, they're always just a little bit lower. They get another injury, another knock. And yes, it's not as long-term or as severe as their first injury, but it takes away from the player, and their levels just kind of just keep dropping and dropping and dropping. A perfect example of that is Kulusevski, who in my opinion, right, I think he's been injured this, I don't want to say this whole entire season, but yeah, he's been injured this whole entire season. Same thing with Madison. He's predicted to come back in the second half of the season. We are now only 4 games away from the season ending. And to be quite honest, I don't think James Madison will make an appearance, right? Again, with the last 4 games that we have, probably with very physical teams, I think he'll probably be apprehensive to want to go out there and put the target on his back and be, enemy number 1 to these teams. They're going to know that he's going to be a little bit tender-footed. So I'm sure that he's going to have a target on his back. And I'm not sure he wants to put himself in that position with where he is in his career, right? He went from battling for a spot on the England team to being injury-ridden, not getting the time of day, being put on the bench for optics, really. And honestly, from what I've seen and what it looks like is a lot of the stuff in recovery has been on his own. I'm not saying that he's done it completely on his own, but, I imagine that with most players in the history at Tottenham, they're getting second opinions. They're getting looked at by other medical experts and kind of amalgamating, whatever they've been told at Tottenham from an independent expert, maybe from a national team, if you have that, contract or whatever. So, like a lot of players don't have a lot of success with coming back from injury and reaching those levels again here at Tottenham. So I feel for Xavi because to me, I don't want to say this is going to be like the beginning of the end for him. I think he's too young, and I think he has an opportunity to get out of Tottenham. But yeah, when you're talking about teams and players, or you're talking about players on this team that, like, what do we see from them? Where do we see them starting to rise back up after being injured? I think the only one you can really say is Romero, and maybe Van de Ven as well. But even then, I would say Van de Ven hasn't necessarily been up to the level he was at. I think there are some things that he already struggled with already before he got injured, Van de Ven. And then now after the injury, he hasn't gotten up to that level. So that's making the other things like his one-on-one defending a blaring shortcoming of his. With Romero, I think you could say with the injuries, and he was even reported to go out to the Argentina team and get a second opinion from their medical coaches and things like that. So, I mean, all in all, I'll just say this to kind of wrap up on the subject. Listen, I feel for Xavi. We're going to miss him definitely in these last 4 games. Again, with him being out, Dominic Solanke being out, I think Mohamed Kudus is still going to be out. I heard there was a report that he may be opting out of a surgery that he could have opted for, but that would have taken him out for the rest of the season. Does this mean he's going to make an appearance? Does this mean he's going to play? I'm not sure. But with him opting out of something that Tottenham has recommended, that only brings to me more skepticism or raises more questions for me of why is a player not wanting to do what the Tottenham medical staff is recommending. And yes, you could say that he wants to try to contribute, he wants to try to save the team, but he's only been here for 1 year, right? I don't believe him to be so in love with the club that he's willing to put such a career-threatening injury on the line to play for this team. He didn't grow up with Tottenham. I don't think, he didn't grow up in London. I don't think he grew up in London, at least. He's not of English nationality. He really doesn't have these connections to make me think that he'd be willing to go out there and sacrifice like this. So I think it's kind of more of him saying, you know what, I'd rather get a second opinion, or I'm just going to hold off to the end of the season before I make a decision. And if it's somewhere we're in the championship, he'll probably say, let me go ahead and take as much time as I need off because I don't want to play in the championship, right? Hey, it's a tough one. It's a tough one for us. I think Xavi Simons being out, all but confirms again that this team is headed for relegation. Relegation. So, it's a tough one. It's a tough one to swallow. Oh my God! Listen. You said that's an. I didn't make that up. That's an expression. People say that. All right. Just okay. Either way, right? I think it will be difficult and frustrating for him to decide what his future is going to look like here at Tottenham, knowing that he has this long-term injury coming up. There's so much uncertainty of where this team is going to be next season. And then on top of that, I'm not playing in the World Cup. So what am I going to be doing for the next 4 years? Because he can make the argument the last 4 years of me playing, and even part of the reason why I went to Tottenham was to platform myself to be in the best position to make that World Cup squad and to be ready for the World Cup. And all of that has just been washed away. So now he's going to be saying, what do I do now? I have another 4 years until the next World Cup, right? I think the Euros coming up. So maybe in 2 years, he could be saying, but even that's, I think, 2 years away. Is that 2 years away? I think the last Euros wasn't 2024, was it? It might have been 2024. Yeah. So last Euros, 2024. He has well, no, it wouldn't have been. It had to be at least 2025, maybe, I think. So I think the next Euros is, well, let's just look it up. Hey, we have the internet, right? Let's just look it up. We got the internet. Let's just look it up. Euros 2028. Oh, okay. So yes, Euros 2028. So he still has another 2 years before the Euros tournament. So he's probably saying, what is the next steps for me in my career? I'm playing with a team that's in a lower league, lower than the team I was just at. I got an injury playing for this team, a long-term injury that's probably going to be affecting him for the rest of his career. What are the next steps if I'm Xavi Simons, right? Do I start inquiring with different teams? Do I try to make a move, even if I'm hurt? How do I orchestrate that move? I'm hurt, right? He didn't necessarily pull up trees, especially this season at Tottenham. Yes, he was probably one of the best players we had on our team visually on the ball, but I'm sure if you look at those stats, they probably don't show that he was the best player on our team, right? I think if you watch some of the game tapes and some of the games he played, he didn't necessarily look like the best player out on the field in some games. So I'm sure that if he was trying to orchestrate a move for this summer or for next summer, and he's going to be out a majority of next season due to his ACL injury, what is he going to have to help facilitate that move other than some game highlights from the season before, this season, right? In the context of next season, right? So they're going to have highlights from this season where Tottenham got relegated. So then he's going to go into next season, and I'm not sure if he's a player that's necessarily going to want to play in the championship, right? So it presents a lot of questions and a lot of concerns for that kid. And again, I feel for him because it's a tough spot to be in. And yeah, he says keep the faith, trust the process, and come on, you Spurs. Well, that applies to everybody here at this team. That applies to the fans. That's for everyone. Um, but again, in my opinion, it's all but confirmed. Um, Tottenham is more than likely going to be relegated next season and will be playing in the championship. So it's not the best feeling in the world, but it is what it is. Hey, thank you for joining tonight. We're going to cut the live stream off here. I want to thank everybody for joining me on tonight's stream. Again, I'm sorry I was streaming very late, but I had some technical issues going on as well as some things going on at work. I'm going to be hitting the road, so don't expect a stream. I would just say for this week, don't worry about the streams this week. I'm really going to be able to go live this week. Once I get into my hotel and everything from travel, I'll try to bring my streaming setup, but I'm going to be flying, so I'm going to have limited space on what I can and cannot bring with me. So I'm not sure if the streaming setup is going to be able to come with me, but I will try my best to make it work. But yeah, go ahead and just prepare yourselves to be without De La Spurs for the rest of this week. One way, if you want to get updates on what will happen, go ahead, subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can follow me on X as well. I post when I go live and everything. Like this live stream, go ahead, throw a like. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Again, 2 away from 10 subscribers, hitting that benchmark. Hey, big number for any YouTube content creator hitting 10 subscribers. So go ahead and feel free to do that for me, folks, watching in the playback. Also, feel free to leave a comment as well. What you like, what you don't like about the content, what I should and shouldn't talk about. Hell, you can just talk about your day. It doesn't even have to be relevant to anything going on in the video. Just love to hear from the fans, the watchers, on what they like, what they think, what they expect from this. And yes, feel free to share the content as well. Listen, guys, it's been a great one. We will try to be back on Wednesday. No promises, though. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. But I will be back. Don't worry. De La Spurs is not going anywhere. If you think I am, I'm not. I'm here for y'all, the people. I'm also here for myself. I do love making this content. But until De La Spurs is back live, I hope you guys have a good rest of your Monday nights and a good rest of your week. If you don't see me, I'm out.